Catarina Matias is a two-time founder. She started a health-focused snack delivery business, The Bite Co., and she's also reshaping recruitment practices with the Recruitment app. In this episode, you will hear the story of how she built both of her companies, how she comes up with business ideas, the benefits of personality-based recruiting, and what keeps her motivated as an entrepreneur.
So it's going to sound silly, but I watched Gilmore Girls growing up as a kid, and I watched a movie called The Wedding Planner with Jennifer Lopez, and both of those just for some reason sparked this interest for me. So watching them, I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to be these people. I want to be Lorelai Gilmore. I want to be Mary Fiore. That's what I want to do. Ultimately enough, the role just fit me. I had been traveling with my mom and brother for his choice in college recruitment. And while we were staying in the hotels, I was most interested about, the design of the hotels and the service and what they were doing. And at the time, I was in middle school. So it was very noticed by my family that, hey, this is maybe something she's going to want to go into. Sure enough, I went to Penn State for it, took a minor in business as well, and just really fell in love with it. Every aspect of the industry that I was exposed to, I enjoyed. I started working for that hotel management company while I was in school, and then just worked my way up to the executive director of operations. And most recently left in November of last year, so almost a year ago.
Okay. And what made you leave?
Well, I had always had an entrepreneurial spirit and background. Ironically enough, leading into 2020, back in 2018, I had come up with an idea for a business and then spoke with my owners. And at the beginning of 2020, I decided to create a business called The Bite Company. So this was a snack distribution company for people on the road, busy individuals like myself. I am just not a meal person. If I have a day off, I'll eat 3 meals. But if I'm working, I'm usually just snacking.
Mm-hmm.
I love to snack, but snacks aren't usually the healthiest. And I noticed that when I graduated, people tell you about freshman 15, but they don't tell you about post-college 15. And I definitely was not taking care of myself back in graduating 2016. And that took a toll. So by the time I got to 2020, I was really focused on health, started this company in January. And the plan was that I was going to leave the company at that point. My owners were very excited for me. It made sense. And then COVID happened. So when COVID happened, obviously I stayed on board. We were a company of almost 700 employees, and at one point we only had 35 employees. So there was a lot going on. Hospitality took a really, really big hit. And during that time frame, I was still trying to operate now this new business that I started, which was very difficult, but bittersweet. There were some amazing things that came out of it. And then now here we are today. Over that time frame, I had issues with staffing and ergo the app that we'll talk about and whatnot.
Okay. So you kind of were planning to leave your current employment anyways, and then the pandemic hit you and you were like, I'm still going to keep going. I'm still going to do it. What did it look like to have, a new business in a time when, basically delivery companies were booming, but no one was trying to get snack deliveries, I'm assuming, or, no one was really trying to spend any money. Everyone's freaking out thinking the world's going to end. What did that look like?
Right. So, yeah. And for me, at the time, it could have made sense to completely scratch it. Thankfully, I had supportive people in my life, and it was just a dream of mine and a passion, and I wanted to go for it. With the company that I was with, they had done so much for me that I felt that it was right for me to stay on board and help. And they were keeping us on board, right? During a time where financially no one knew what was going on, and I was thankful to have a job, have an opportunity. So kind of trying to manage that was very interesting. Interestingly enough, although people didn't want to spend money, people were very concerned about going to the grocery store to purchase food. They were very concerned about their elderly family members needing healthy options and how to get those healthy options to them. People who sometimes had been grocery shopping for their loved ones maybe couldn't grocery shop for the loved ones or didn't want to risk exposure to their loved ones. So myself, my team, we took it very seriously. We were using Clorox wipes like nobody's business, gloves, everything was being sanitized. And we found a niche market of sending snacks to people who were either concerned to go and grocery shop were now more health conscious than they had been in the past, but still wanted their snacks. And then also another piece was new moms. So new moms we found were very, very concerned about what was going on in the world. And furthermore, when they were a new mom, they're realizing, wait, now what I'm putting into my body needs to be that much more safe for my child if I'm breastfeeding, if I'm taking care of them. So we have found a very large market in new moms needing snacks as well. So again, something that markets I wouldn't have expected, elderly folks, new moms, health conscious because they didn't want to go to the grocery store. Going into it, I thought, we're going to get business travelers. We're going to get people on the road. We're going to get moms looking for snacks with their kids with allergies. Completely different sectors than I thought. So for me, the way to keep going and what kept me going was the fact that I was realizing I was really helping in a very scary time. I get chills thinking about it, but I was doing good and we were putting good out into the world. So that's what helped keep me motivated, even when I thought I was going to be pulling my hair out.
Yeah,
for sure.
And you aren't having your own brand of snacks. These are other companies that make these healthy snacks, and you're just
Correct.
packaging it up, or putting a shop front on it and being like, "Hey, these are healthy snacks. Let me bring them to you," type thing.
Absolutely. So we're pretty much cutting down the guesswork because I found for myself, it took almost about 2 years for me to go through grocery stores, look online, look up companies, and find snacks for myself. What's hard about grocery stores for people is if you're looking for healthy snacks, you could stand in the grocery aisle for 2, 3 hours reading all the ingredients, all the packaging, and you don't necessarily know what you're looking for. So we've done the guesswork and we have a lot of like-minded snacks. So, that red can, tall can with certain chips inside of it, there's a company out there that makes very similar chips called the Good Crisp. And if you put them side by side, you probably couldn't tell the difference, but one's incredibly healthier for you. So a lot of the snacks are healthier versions of what's on the shelves. And other times it's products that people don't necessarily know about. So we're hopefully doing good by letting people know about snacks they wouldn't necessarily have known about.
Right. Okay. And with these types of companies, I'm assuming you were US based for the start of it. But how are you finding your first customers? Because I'm not sure if you'd started in the pandemic or just before the pandemic, but still finding customers for something like this is still very, very hard.
Absolutely. Yeah, we started right before the pandemic, but we really didn't kick off until April of 2020. That was really our kickoff point. So that's the pandemic timeframe. And Instagram was, I can't even tell you, that's where we found all of our customers. I still am not necessarily that much of a social media person. I'm really this year trying to get more into it. Things like podcasts, being more forefront on social media, but I just wasn't really, I'm a Facebook baby, but I don't really know that much. I actually had a marketing company purchase a box, reach out to me and say, hey, let's do your marketing for you. And I was skeptical of a lot of different ideas they had, but they really opened up my mind to how much you can utilize Instagram via influencers, just social media marketing, how we're getting our word out there. That's where we got all of our customers, pretty much almost 100% of them, and then word spread from there. The other big thing was once we connected with some of these companies that we were supplying their snacks, getting their fan base too, really working through that process. And then things like gyms, hotels more recently, just cold calling, reaching out to people, finding ways to get our snacks, retro fitnesses, different things like that. Currently right now we're trying to work on airports, get our snacks to those locations. So a lot of cold calling, a lot of confidence built throughout the process, but Instagram was really where it started.
Okay. And how are you funding this? Did you fundraise, or did you kind of use your own money? Because there's a lot of logistics here. You've got to pay for the snacks and have somewhere to store them, or at least pay for the snacks and put them together. There's a whole bunch of things that would be a big upfront cost. So I'm wondering how you kind of funded this in the beginning.
Absolutely. So it was self-funded. It sounds like it would be more funds necessary than it actually was, and I say that because we kept our inventory as we needed it to be. What I mean by that is the very beginning. So the goal for the bike company is to be a healthy drive-through one day. So imagine 7-Eleven, Wawa, but a healthier version, convenience drive-through. I obviously know I wouldn't be able to do that right away. So what I did right away was I sent out 10 boxes to family and friends to post online to get the word out there to start, and then it trickled from there. These boxes were curated. So we started for the first 2.5 years, curated snack boxes that you tell us, you fill out a survey, we find the right snacks for you. So by doing it that way, I didn't need to keep certain inventory on hand. I could keep modest inventory. It was inventory depending on what was selling, what was moving quickly. A thing with healthy snacks is expiration dates are usually at most 2 months sometimes. Sometimes you could be looking at 6 months. That's the longevity of it really, where You could buy unhealthy snacks that could last a year and a half even, right? So there's definitely a difference there. But by doing curated snack boxes, we could keep the inventory we needed to keep on hand. And as we built up our revenue, that's when we were able to start moving into now of a market option. So the market option we now have has our inventory posted. Again, still modest inventory, but people are able to build those snack boxes themselves or still do curated boxes if they're looking to. Smaller amount of curated boxes.
Okay. Because that kind of gives me a picture now of how your recruitment process would have gone. Because obviously, if you're a venture backed, let's say you get a nice little six figures in there to start with, you would try and employ 30, 40 people, and then that's probably where problems could arise. But in this case, it probably started out with just you and a friend, or just you and your family members, and then you're needing one other person, and each other hire is just as important as the one before them, because you're slowly building this this kind of snowball momentum. So talk to me about that first hire. Like, obviously not who were they by name, but what kind of role were they doing, and how did that kind of make your business run more effectively or not so effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. So it all started in my mom's dining room. So that's what's funny. It completely, to your point, it was just me, dining room. Then it moves to a finished basement area. Then it moves to an apartment. So it definitely grew very organically. And the first hire was a virtual assistant. So by doing something like that, it's hard as an entrepreneur to sort of release the reins. Somewhat the marketing company, I could even see them being as a hire because it's third party, but you are hiring someone to work under your team. It's hard to make sure the people that are working for you have the vision. I'm very big on my gut. So with this virtual assistant, her name was Becky, is still Becky. It's finding someone that jives, that has the same passion, that's excited about what you're up to, but also remembering that their input and insights could actually help grow your business. When you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of holding on to everything. It's your baby. It's hard to sort of allow someone else to come in, start doing things for you. And I think that was kind of my first piece in it. And then when you start having other people start to make these boxes that you were making, it's very easy to be a little bit of a control freak and make sure people are making the boxes the way that you want them to be made, and that they're arriving the right way, and that the snacks are going out, that the emails back and forth with customers are the way that you in the beginning were answering them. So it's a lot of letting go. It's like being a parent and having your first child.
Mm. And you worked in hospitality for such a long time, and I'm assuming you were climbing up that ladder and probably in charge of recruiting people and employing people. So what kind of skills from that side of things did you bring over to Bite?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is the fact that hospitality is an industry that you never really know what your day is going to look like. And that can be true of a lot of industries, but there were days where in the morning a car hit the building. Later on in the day, there was a flood at another location, and by the end of the day, the bride's decided she no longer wants to have her wedding, at the property at all, and she wants to have it completely different, and everyone's changing things up. And I may be on a corporate level, but I'm still hearing about all these things, and I still have my hand in all of these things. 9 times out of 10, I had no idea what I was doing as I was climbing the corporate ladder. But every day I got through it. The next day always came. And no matter what situation was, somehow we made it through. That mindset and that backing allowed me in my company and in any venture that I do to know I'm going to get through it. So, and that sounds sort of cliche and silly, but at the end of the day, no matter what comes up in a given day, we're going to get through it. Even if that means that the company no longer exists, that we have to move on to something else, we're always going to move on to something else. There will never be just we're done, we can't do this. We can always kind of do something. And with the recruitment process specifically, that fell under completely my purview by the end of my time there at the company. I oversaw that process. I worked with HR very closely. And for me, the big struggle was once we were ramping back up, once we were hiring back people post-COVID, it was a scary time and we could not find people. We were finding people who were trying out hospitality. There was a really big difference. There was this great resignation everyone was talking about, where everyone was leaving the industry they were in to try out other industries. People were fleeing from hospitality. People who had never tried hospitality were trying it. And if you don't have a passion for people or customer service, you're not going to be there for more than a week. And I don't say that in a mean way. I just say that in hospitality can be hard. Customer service can be hard. Anything where you're dealing with people day in, day out, it's hard. And I just felt we didn't have options out there to find the right candidates, which is what started the app then at the end of 2021. So between that problem solving aspect that I had in me and also knowing that, we can always find the right people if we're going about it the right way, that definitely helped me with Bike Company and then ultimately the Recruitment app.
Yeah, I mean, you had that entrepreneurial spirit even when you're working for somebody else, and even if it was a big company, you were like, "We're gonna make it through this," we're gonna keep going, and that is very much an entrepreneurial thing. Like, I think, most of the people that listen to this have that same kind of thing or are trying to get into that kind of mindset, but having that from day one of like, I'm not stopping, I'm gonna keep going, that's like 100% an entrepreneur thing. And I think something that I'm kind of picking up here is that you kind of have this, but I say you, I mean you, Catarina, you have this kind of top-down view of things where you're able to see them and go, oh, there's actually an opportunity over here, or oh, there's actually a need over here. And again, that's a really entrepreneurial kind of skill. So I was going to originally ask you, how did you come up with the idea for Byte? But I think that's kind of been covered in the last, 15, 20 minutes of conversation. Talk to me about being a two-time founder. That must come with its own problems. Surely the best advice would be, hey, focus on one thing, and then when you have time, do the next thing. What's going on here, Catarina? You're running two businesses.
Yeah, I was always the kind of person that used to be doing a million things at once. I cannot sit still. I was the child that, had talkative on the report card. People joke and say that those are the kind of people that end up, giving speeches or being entrepreneurs. Teachers don't know it at the time. And that was just so stereotypically me. I just was always doing so many things. And I find that for me, if I have things to balance out, I'm more successful that way. If I only have one thing to focus on, I hyper focus on it. And that can be a detriment. And that everyone can be different. I know people think I'm crazy. I think I'm crazy sometimes too. I know it doesn't sound, the most ideal way to go about starting companies, and I don't recommend it. I wouldn't say to people if you have all these ideas, but I'm a serial idea person. I joke with family and friends that if someone could just pay me to come up with ideas, I could sit in a room all day long. And just give them, brand ideas or logo ideas or slogans. I love, 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 love that stuff because I enjoy walking through life and finding ideas and areas where we can come up with something. I love, obviously, watching things like Shark Tank. Love hearing about someone's backstory and why they created a product. Ironically enough, with the snacks, a lot of companies that we supply, they came up with these snacks because of a need, whether it be someone in the family had cancer, whether it be someone had severe allergies, they couldn't find something on the shelves. They saw a need, they made something. That's inspirational to me, and that's how I am too. So I have a laundry list of other companies I would like to start. Obviously, 2 is enough until, they're on their own and I can kind of step away. But for me, like I said, being able to juggle something has always been easier. And I think that comes from the fact that the role I spent most of my career in thus far, we had 11 properties. So always having something kind of bounce between not just having one, I found that I worked best that way. And that's how I work best now also.
Okay. Well, that was a question I had to ask because, I think I was going crazy here. I was thinking, no, there is 2 businesses here, right? They're not all one thing. They're 2 separate entities. So it's good to kind of get that clarity. Okay. So you went from kind of a logistics product-based business into almost, is it people tech? Is that a right thing? I don't know. HR tech, I guess, sort of.
Yeah, definitely in that way of software. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like for you? Because you don't have a technical background. You know nothing about this kind of stuff.
Ounce in my body.
So you've already gone with a VA. So I'm assuming you went with like a virtual development team as well here.
I did. Yes, I went with a virtual development team actually based in London.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes.
Paying top dollar.
They were a newer company, so I was always big, and this is the same with the marketing company too. I mean, first of all, cost effective for a new business, but also the thought process was always, if we make it big, you make it big too. So they had been in business at the time for 2 years. Spoke with them. I spoke with a couple different companies. App development is difficult. It is very expensive. It's hard to find the right company. There's a lot of people out there doing it, but it's hard to find the right kind of companies. And we just jived. They're based in London, also based in Texas. It's sort of depending on where their team is. They're up to a lot of great things now. They've actually moved away a little bit from app development, but they helped me bring the vision to life. We started our conversation in October of 21. The app officially launched in March of 22. And then it's gone through a few different phases. It relaunched with its newest phase in April of this year. And yeah, it was a very interesting journey because I told you before, I'm a control person and I want things done yesterday. And for me, having to sort of go at the pace of app development, and the fact that I couldn't do anything, I just was the ideas person, it really humbled me and sort of slowed down my process as well. But I was excited for the vision, and I'm very excited that it's out in the world and helping companies and job seekers.
Yeah, and I mean, we had the kind of bite growth story of, okay, I sent some boxes out to some family members, they posted it, and then this company contacted me, and then they did some Instagram stuff for me. What's it like growing and scaling a tech company? What did that look like?
So difficult. And I will to this day still say we are very much still a startup. We aren't some huge conglomerate. We have hundreds of users, but we are still trying to really get our word out there. The very first thing we did is obviously start getting on social media. We got on social media, did a lot of outreach with local businesses, did outreach with universities, because the two main things we wanted to focus on was helping small businesses, but then also helping students. People who are looking for jobs are always going to be that graduate student, that first person out of college looking for a job, right? So fast forward now, we have college reps at universities like Penn State, Ohio State. They work for us in getting the word out there to students about giveaways we're doing, getting them to sign up and create profiles, things like that. So everything's been very organic. I've done some talks, virtual talks, in-person talks, podcast. A podcast was started. That was my very first thing. So starting my own podcast was helpful to me because I couldn't do anything. I was waiting for the development team to work on anything. So I was able to put my sort of built up, need to get things going into a podcast. And I focused that podcast on recruitment, how to write your resume, how to show up to a job interview, all these extra things. And by the end of the first season or say, we spoke about the app. So getting it out there that way is what kind of really helped us. Obviously, the connections to universities, local businesses, a lot of cold calling too, calling corporates like Ulta's and Walgreens and Walmart's and Lowe's and doing cold calls, but also visiting. A lot of different pieces to it. Any way, shape, or form, networking and whatnot, just getting the word out there and allowing it to sort of organically grow.
Yeah, okay. I mean, organic growth is some of the best growth because paid
Yes.
marketing's great, but it has to always have a monetary outcome or else it's kind of just throwing money at the wall. And big companies can do that, but when you're bootstrapping, growing and scaling by yourself, definitely, organic growth is the best way to go. And one thing I want to ask is because I've noticed a fair amount, obviously there's the big job boards like Indeed and all that kind of stuff, but there's a big market now for very niche types of job boards or recruitment processes. And is your app kind of like that, or is it more of a general kind of there's jobs here, come here to look for well picked out jobs type thing?
I would say it's much more niche. It's funny because when I first had the idea and the onset of it, there really weren't any of these boutique-y sort of, I'd like to call them, options out there. And AI and ChatGPT, they weren't even a conversation yet. So now when we're at a point where I really at this last version that was released in April, I felt the most confident in the app of where we are. And now things have exploded. There's so many options out there, which is fantastic. We never look to eliminate. We just want there to be thousands and thousands of ways people to find jobs. There are millions and millions of job seekers on a regular basis, and there was really only 4 platforms people were using. We ourselves, the company I was working for, we were reshuffling candidates. We had, people who applied before reapplying, and it was getting to a point where it was like, it's not a bad thing they're reapplying, but these weren't right fits for us. So I felt, and now my team felt we needed more options out there. The app is really taking a different approach. So just to give a little more background on it, it's really a dating app for your career, which is a funny way to explain it, but it's the best way to explain it because there are no job posts on the app. We are completely going about things a different way, and we're connecting people instead of connecting a job with the person. So you're looking for a job, you create a profile. When you create a profile, you're answering 9 questions. The employer that you possibly could work for is also creating a profile, and they're answering 9 questions. Those 9 questions work with an algorithm to match up the right people. So if you're someone who is looking for a job, this is going to match you with the right company, with the right job opportunities. This isn't going to find you a certain type of job. This is going to find you the right employer. I'm a firm believer that when you're looking for a job, you need to be looking for the right company. Because 9 times out of 10, the right job can be made for you, it can be tweaked for you, or there could be millions of jobs at that company, or thousands, perhaps not millions, but thousands. And if you want to work at a company that you enjoy, you want to grow at that company, you don't want to have to jump around always. Sometimes you do, but oftentimes it'd be great if you could grow the ranks or work around in a company. And if you already know you like that company, you're going to want to stay with them and continue to grow. So when you're creating that profile, you're put on the right employer's page. It's like a news feed, like an Instagram situation. If you're a job seeker, you're going to have tips and tricks on how to interview, work-life balance, healthy habits, all these different things. But if you're an employer with an account, you're going to have a list of people. You're going to see a picture. It doesn't have to be their face, right? The employee has the option to put a sunset photo, picture of the beach, picture of their dog. It's whatever they'd like to do. And it just has their name, their last role, and the location that they're looking or that they're located in, right? For an employer to go ahead and connect with that person, they have to subscribe. So it's free to the user. It's not free to the employer. The driver's seat is there for the employee. So the person looking is completely in control of this, because what happens is an employer could say, hey, I want to go ahead and I want to connect with you, Sam. So they're going to hit connect. You'll get a notification saying IBM is interested in you. You then say, let me look at this profile. I don't really know if they're my kind of company, right? They have their photo, they have a little bit about them, they can have an elevator pitch, they can have a message from the CEO, they can have video messages, just like a job seeker can. And then you can say, they're not for me. You decline the connection. So there's that privacy level in there. There's that almost like we're letting you handle your own networking. Instead of you having to do the work, the companies are doing the work. And you sort of sit back and wait for the right people to reach out to you. So hopefully that gives you a little more overview of it. But that's why it's really like a dating app for your career. You're not swiping left or right, but you're being connected with the right company.
Yeah, and I'm actually now seeing the connecting thread between your two businesses is that they all start with a quiz, right?
Yes, that's true. I actually never thought about that.
That was me kind of seeing through a little bit of the connecting dots and that kind of thing. But yeah, they all start with quizzes, and I guess that is, a better way to figure out what someone needs as opposed to trying to prepare what they need before they actually need it. And, or in this case, match two people that, one was looking for an employee and another one's looking for a job type thing. So
yes,
I'm wondering, where did you get that idea from, or this kind of thought process? Because it's clearly working, the whole quiz-based entry funnel system. Where did you get that from?
I'm not quite sure then. I feel like you need to get to know a person. And companies sometimes aren't doing that. The bike company specifically really just came up from my health, and Recruitment came when I was getting ready for work one day. I had just gotten out of the shower. They say you do your best thinking as you're getting ready for the morning, and I was at my wit's end. I think in both cases at my wit's end, feeling as a consumer that I couldn't find healthy options for myself, and no one was taking the time to know what I needed. And then also, as an employer looking for people, I felt like if you can't beat them, join them. No one was taking the time. I was having people come in ripped jeans, no resume on hand. They had just been grocery shopping. They thought to stop in and apply for a job. And managers were hiring whoever they could at the time because it was coming back from COVID, right? So I was incredibly frustrated. And not to say that ripped jeans and stopping with that resume is a problem, but if you're applying for a general manager role, maybe that's not the way to present yourself, right? So both came out of frustration and wit's end aspect, where I just thought enough is enough. I need to get into the minds of these people and understand what's going on. And really, again, if you can't beat them, join them. So there was a really big mentality post-COVID of, a company needs me more than I need them. A lot of people didn't want to work. I can totally understand where they're coming from. But I needed to understand where they were coming from by asking them some questions so that we can match up the right people. Instead of people focusing so much on applying to the right job, making sure they were applying to the right company.
And, the way things sound with your app it's that personality-driven hiring. How is this kind of comparing to the current landscape of qualification-based, applications, things being read by bots, all that kind of stuff? How does personality-driven recruitment differ?
So once you connect with a candidate, you can see more about them. You'll be able to see their full resume. You'll be able to see any past projects they want to post about, video from themselves as well. So qualifications will still matter. And with the questions, there are questions like salary expectations. There are questions like experiential things. So we're still making sure that we're not just giving you someone who all the fluff is there. It's a well-rounded aspect. And our mission isn't to find you, one perfect person. We're cutting down your hiring process. So take a stack on an HR person's desk, cut it in half, right? We're sifting through those initial ones that aren't even worth your time to look at. So when you're looking at your candidates, instead of looking at 1,250, 1,000 applicants, you're only looking at 50. It's less overwhelming and you're not wasting your time. So that's where the personality-driven aspect makes sense. I think in today's landscape, I'm a big fan of all technology that's out there that can help us. Things like AI, ChatGPT, all these things going out and about, plus all these other recruitment aspects that are out there in different websites. I just want to make sure that we all realize that personal touch, that humanization is always going to be needed. I mean, I'm excited to see where things go, 1,000%. But if a computer is always the one doing it solely and there's no human aspect, which there's a team behind us that's still reviewing things. We're still checking profiles to make sure that, there's no bots. There's things, everything's appropriate. All the companies are screened. There's still that human piece with technology. So it's the best of both worlds, in my opinion. I think in today's landscape, everyone is so itching to have technology. And this is a nice way to infiltrate technology with still having that human aspect so people aren't as scared or nervous about completely giving up to technology. It's sort of the best of both worlds, in my opinion.
Yeah, and with that human touch, there is an element of customer service or culture that needs to kind of be built there. So I'm not sure if the culture in Byte is different to the culture in your recruitment app, or if they're kind of got the same kind of thread running through them. But like, what do you look for in a culture fit or to create a culture in a business?
I think passion is number one. And I would say that the cultures are very similar. It's just a difference in like-minded people, right? More tech thought process in Recruitment, obviously, more health conscious in the bike company. But at the end of the day, still both very passion driven. And that to me is number one. Any culture that needs to succeed, there needs to be a commonality of passion. If the CEO, if the founder, if the CFO, whoever is in charge, whoever that leadership team is and what that looks like, if they're not passionate about what they're doing, the entire team is not going to be. Because even if someone is passionate for a few months, a year, eventually their passion will run out because the people at the helm are not passionate, and that trickles down. Until I'm blue in the face, I believe that wholeheartedly. I'm sure a lot of people would say the same and agree with that. It's easy to say, but it's hard to keep up with. The minute that you're no longer passionate about the business that you've started, it's time to get out. It's time to do something else. It's time to hand over the reins to someone who is passionate, because that will affect your business so much more than really anything else that could happen to the business.
Have you reached that kind of place with either of your businesses where you're kind of looking for like a CEO or someone to come in and take that head honcho position while you go off and focus on something else?
I hope soon, but not quite yet. I think for me, it's more the fact of working towards what the goal will eventually, hopefully one day be. Matias Hospitality has always been the background, and that has just started to get underway as of August, which is really going to be the parent company for any ventures that I put out there. The goal really is to have in a city somewhere a building for Matias Hospitality, different floors with all ventures, where each one can have their own CEO, but all still being kept in the same family of that same culture, that same passion. So working towards that, hopefully in a few years, that's where we're at. But yeah, not quite there yet, but I definitely am itching to start some other projects and get other things going. So, in time, hopefully things continue to take off.
I mean, one of my previous guests, we both kind of had this shared belief that, ideas are great, but ideas that are implemented are even better. There's no point keeping like ideas secret, because if you think that you have to keep it secret in order for it to be successful, then that doesn't really help you. Do you know what I mean? As in, there's nothing better than an idea that you can see someone else doing and you can pick apart and see, oh, if I did this one piece better, for example, like you did with Byte, like there's no healthy options that can be delivered in that last mile logistics, or that are lost in a sea of unhealthy snacks. And then in this case with the Recruit Me, you've got like matching based on personalities. it's one of those things where you can have loads of ideas, but if you don't act on them, then they're kind of like valueless. But from the sounds of it, it sounds like you're actually planning to act out all these ideas you have, and you also kind of sit and iterate on your ideas. And I'm wondering, how do you decide what ideas to kind of go forward with, or which ones have the most legs?
I think, again, to bring it back to passion, it's the ones you're most excited about, because it can be very, very difficult to be an entrepreneur. It can be very difficult to be anyone nowadays, right? In any sort of work environment and be working on anything. So when you feel this burning passion to make it happen, that's when I think it makes sense. For me, ideas that I have that are more logistically, whether it be a clothing option or an idea that I know maybe isn't as necessary right now, too, right? So the bike company was just my first idea. That was the most I was excited about. I didn't have other ideas at the time. I always knew I wanted to own my own hotels one day, possibly, but there was no idea that I could grasp, that I could see. Started that one. I was actually sitting in a Pizza Hut parking lot waiting for my dinner and had a very rough day at work, and I was like, today's the day, we're doing it. With Recruit Me, yes, I had other ideas already at that point, but it was to hopefully help me in my own environment that I was in, hopefully help the bike company. And it was just something that I personally needed to be out there. I needed better options, and it made sense at the time to start it. Other ideas that I have, there's no almost, right now needs to happen. So I think that allows me to know I can start them at some point, but it's not as needed right this second, and I should focus on what I have. Doesn't mean that if something comes down the line, an idea of mine that needs to happen right now, that maybe I won't, start it with either colleagues of mine or, work more towards investors. Right now, that's our big thing with Recruit Me, is trying to get some angel investors or investors in general so we can continue to grow this even more. It will really just always kind of depend. Again, like I said, I'm a big person with my gut. So if it feels like it's the right thing to do, I really try to take time to think about that and go from there.
No, that's a great way to put it. And I'm thinking, okay, you're passionate about healthy snacks and that kind of thing, and allowing people to eat snacks that have, different kind of eating problems, or they need special types of food. You're passionate about recruiting people and that kind of stuff. What else are you passionate about right now? What else is capturing your attention?
Yeah, I definitely think technology in general has really captured my attention. I really wasn't a technology person. I was very much against technology in hospitality. I was concerned that it would get rid of that personal touch. But a lot of companies are coming up with very unique ways in how to infiltrate technology in a way that it actually helps the human aspect. So I'm very passionate on hospitality. That will always remain in anything that I do. I'm a hospitality exec at the end of the day. Passionate about technology and what's coming out there into the world. There are so many resources online to be learning about millions of things. And other than that, personally, very interested right now, really diving into a lot of reading, constantly trying to keep up with my readings. Really getting into golf, travel a little bit. So just things like that, just trying to kind of continue to see what brings you joy. I sound like Marie Kondo, what's bringing me joy, and go for it. And kind of utilize it as my self-care, right? Because everyone needs to be finding ways to take time. It's not selfish. And in those moments of self-care and self-discovery is usually when your best ideas and kind of realigning what you're looking to do when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds selfish as well when you say it like, I have to take care of me. But when you take care of yourself, you're actually a better boss, a better partner, a better, person in general. And it's really important, because if you spend all your time kind of worrying about this and just going around doing bits and bobs here and there without taking care of yourself, you'll never really kind of be able to be the best version of yourself. A way I've been taking care of myself is with Magic Mind. I've personally experienced so many benefits, such as not having that weird caffeine crash that you can have once you've had far too many coffees in a day. And that clarity and mental focus is sustained throughout the day. All the ingredients in Magic Mind really just kind of help for focus, energy, and relieving stress. Ashwagandha, turmeric, matcha, cordyceps mushrooms, lion's mane mushrooms, and a whole host of other things have helped me have reduced stress, improved focus and clarity, steady and calm energy, and these benefits have built up over time. If you're looking to improve your focus and have sustained energy throughout the day, I've got a special offer just for you. Go to magicmind.com/stringcastmedia to get your hands on the drink that will help you smash your goals in 2024. If you use the code STRINGCAST20, you'll get 20% off your purchase anytime. This deal is for listeners of our show who want to take their productivity and focus to the next level this year. The links I've mentioned will be in the description. And I'm quite glad that you mentioned reading, because obviously, yes, I'm biased. I think people should listen to more podcasts. People should listen to every episode of this podcast. But, I read a lot as well as listening to a lot of podcasts, and I get a lot of learnings from reading. So I'm wondering, what kind of stuff are you reading, and, how do you kind of find the books that you have read?
Absolutely. So currently I'm reading a book called Quit. I'll see here if I can grab the name of who it is. I'm losing my not coming to me as I'm thinking of it. It's by Annie Duke, called Quit. And I thought it was a really interesting book right now as I'm reading it. I'm only about 100 pages in. But it's this thought process on when to quit, learning when to quit. And it's funny because the connotation of quitting is usually a negative connotation. And she's really trying to bring out from stories of climbers. Free solo is mentioned in this book. And I don't know if you've seen Free Solo, but right? So the book, he talks about his first attempt, that he actually comes back down and his whole team has to pack back up. A year later, they go back and he does it. Things like that, of knowing when to quit, being just as prevalent as knowing when to push on, and that 9 times out of 10 people are mixing those up. That when they should be quitting, they're pushing on, and when they should be pushing on, they're quitting. Stories of taxi drivers, like just so many stories infiltrated into a book to really get your mind thinking about probability and odds and whatnot. So for me, this book was something that has been beneficial for me, and looking back and knowing that it was the right time for me to leave the corporate role that I was in, because I was getting comfortable and I had these aspirations, right? But also, even now in my roles, that connotation that if one of these businesses fails, and fail is a negative word, and it's not necessarily that. I started it. I did it. I helped people. It's okay for, to move on to something else. This book's really helped me keep that mindset. Both businesses are doing well right now, but if they aren't doing well at some point, and if it makes sense to move on to something else, then it's okay to do so. So to answer your other piece of question, how do I find books? A past boss of mine, an owner, Doran Teifel, he actually used to always send me books that he thought I would like. And he really is one of the people who got me into reading different books, different stories. I love reading books that have stories of other entrepreneurs in it. So if there's a book about the Container Store called Contain Yourself, all about the onset of how that business came to be, right? I love those types of books because for me, it's easy to relate to. And you get a lot of ideas from it. You hear about some of their failures, and then the next time you deal with something, you start to think about those experiences, how to handle things yourself. So that's usually how I find a lot of those books. Not to mention that then there's books out there that I'm enjoying that friends maybe will recommend. Everybody's reading Colleen Hoover books right now, and I hadn't read one, and then finally my friend she gave me a book by her called All Your Perfects, and I loved it. I hated it, then I loved it again. So, allowing people who know you best to recommend books to you, I think is huge. And then also just finding what you're passionate about, and then reading books about it, right? You know what I mean? Like, what makes you excited? I had a colleague of mine tell me about a book about the onset of Nike, and it's on my list to read. So things like that. That's really where I find myself. And to your point, I love listening to podcasts. Whenever I can, if I'm driving with work, I would either be listening to audiobooks, or I'd be listening to podcasts. I think that's huge. It's a great use of your time. But I have the occasional dance party too, so you got to kind of have balance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a key part of being an entrepreneur or a business owner is constantly learning. And if you're not constantly learning, then someone out there is learning and they're growing, and you could be doing the exact same thing, or sparking ideas. But you're right as well. Sometimes you got to drive around and have a little dance party. There's no shame in that. So for you as well, you had your own podcast, or have your own podcast. I'm not sure which one's which, but what did that look like for you? And what was the kind of thought plan behind having the podcast?
Yeah, so I still have it. I'm not as fantastic as you and others that are consistently posting. And, at first I was discouraged by that because I thought, oh no, this is another thing that I tried. It didn't work out. But I think once you have something, consistency is doing it whenever it makes sense to be doing it. In the beginning, kind of to what I said, I needed an outlet because I wasn't in control of the timeline I was waiting for someone else to work on something, and I had no real I couldn't contribute in any way, right? I was the ideas person, but I couldn't write the code. I couldn't write any of the back end. There was nothing I could do other than wait for our calls that we would have and go over prototypes and whatnot. So part of the frustration that created the app was this frustration that people weren't being taught how to handle interviews, resumes, or they weren't taking the teachings, they weren't listening to it. And I thought to myself, where did I learn it from? Where did I have this, what I thought was common sense of coming with a blazer on, bringing a pen, writing your resume appropriately? Where did I learn that? So I was, as a recruitment professional, just sharing my expertise and trying to do it in a light and fun way. Trying to do it where it wasn't annoying to listen to someone talk to you about it. Something that it was usually just 20-minute episodes. You could hear it on your way to work, and you could just take that information and it would better you. Then, after taking almost a year hiatus of posting, because I really thought once the app was out there, I didn't need to post anymore, which completely wrong. I started having guests on my podcast as of earlier this year. So talking with other professionals and hearing their take on things, and then also asking them the question of, what does recruitment mean to you? Because the name itself means putting yourself out there. It means, you have to get yourself recruited. No one else is going to do it for you. The employers are doing the work here, but you need to put the best version of yourself out there to attract the best people. So asking them what that meant and looked like to them, with a difference in people. We've talked to recruiters. I've talked to health professionals. I've talked to people in the social media space. So getting different viewpoints really tried to kind of, brand us a little differently and get us out there more. And that's also helped get the word out there too. So that's what it's looked like to me. And then also being guests on podcasts, just like-minded individuals. We're talking about things that, we're both interested in, and hopefully we're helping people along the way.
And you had this idea in your podcast, or a kind of topic area that you kind of had in your kind of content line pipeline about how to recruit yourself. What is that?
Yes. So it's the thought process of saying that it's the same thing of dress for the job that you want of the job you have, right? So if you want to be an exec at Apple, how are you going to get there? It's a funny movie, but there's the movie The Internship, Google Internship, right? Where there are two interns. They lost their job, their sales exec, and then, now they're trying to find a way into this mass company. So it can be funny, but that thought process of saying, if you want something, no one's going to get it for you. No one's going to give it to you. You need to work towards it. If you're passionate enough about it, how are you going to get there? So that means now you're going to do more research on Apple. Your main focus when you have downtime is going to be reading up everything you can about Apple. You're going to be connecting with them on LinkedIn, professionals there. You're going to find events that Apple's sponsoring. You're going to visit Apple stores and watch the beehive going on and ask questions. And you're going to start putting yourself and thinking about that. And the more you're thinking about that, the more you're going to start attracting things regarding that. So it's really making yourself the person that Apple would want to hire, and what that looks like. And that's recruiting yourself. That's putting yourself out there. That's getting yourself recruited to a company versus sitting and looking up jobs, because a job post is just as much curated as a resume is. And sometimes it's two people lying to each other about what they want something to be, but maybe not what it actually is. So if you're more honest with yourself about what you want to be and what you want, you'll attract it by being that person that you want to be.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And I guess for some people, that's not their first thought, which is to become the person they want to be. Sometimes they kind of hope that they can get a leg up or a start, from someone else. But it's like, actually, if you want to do this thing, start moving like how that person would move, attend the events they would attend, and the rest will kind of fall into place, bit by bit.
Absolutely. It's like training for a marathon. If you want to run a triathlon, you're going to train for it. You're going to do the things that someone doing that would do. You're not just going to be like, well, I hope I make it. I'm going to sign up and I'm going to see what happens. You train and prepare yourself, and you become a person who's capable of doing that. And that's kind of a similar thought process.
Yeah. And so for you, Catarina, it seems like you've got a good handle on all the things you've got going on now. It seems like you have this kind of grand vision of your whole Matias hospitality solutions. What I'm wondering is as well, though, is, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going?
Well, I'd like to say first, you said it seems, and that's true. It all seems. It's all the picture, right? Social media is, no, I'm only teasing. There are days where I'm a crazy person, but, like you said, it's the motivation is what keeps that all intact. I've had the idea of Matias Hospitality since I was young, right? I was around middle school age too that I wanted to do that. So it's not that you get stuck on these ideas, but I'm a firm believer that if a passion gets put on your heart, in your head, it's there for a reason. And somehow, some way you can get to it. So sort of to be hokey and to be thinking that you're healing your inner child and you're doing it for the little girl that you once were, or the little boy, or, your past version of yourself that's cheering you on. That's what keeps me motivated is, knowing that I at some point had this vision, being so proud of where I am now, knowing I have so much more still to do, that, I by no means I'm anywhere where I still want to be, have so much more I want to accomplish, but knowing that hopefully in 10 years I can be thinking of who I was today and how proud I would be of the person that now I am and that what I've accomplished, who I've helped. At the end of the day, it's the helping aspect, right? There is just something about helping people, whether it be healthy snacks, whether it be finding that dream job, whatever the case may be. If there's someone that I can help, I just have always loved that. I was an RA in college. I know RAs, but I think I was a cool RA. And you could have 30, you could have 40 students, but if I made one person's college experience better or easier, that was amazing to me, because it's one life that you touched. You completely changed it. And that in hospitality is the same thing. I used to say that we aren't curing lives, but we can save them. You're not curing diseases. We're not doctors, but you can change someone's life, right? You can save or change who they are in that moment. They could come in with a miserable day, and one minor little smile interaction, you can completely change the entire course of their day. And that could change 50 other people's courses of their day, and so on and so forth. And little by little, you're changing the world. So we're not saving or curing the lives, but we are changing them, somehow also saving them in a way.
And following on from that, what is it about what you do that brings you the most joy?
I think the helping people. I think, getting emails back. We've gotten some emails before, people thanking us. I never found snacks that my son enjoyed eating. I'm so thankful. Especially now schools are very strict as they have to be about peanut allergies, right? It's hard to find snacks that a little kid, an 8-year-old, is interested in eating. And when he has that allergy, or maybe if he's in a situation where the school can't allow certain snacks, for them still to be eating and being nourished, that you can feel it in those emails, in those comments on Instagram. You see it, you can feel it, that they're genuinely thankful for what you're doing, and that can revitalize you like no other. Aside from that, whenever I get to talk with college students, I don't know what it is about just the passion that they have. They're just about to get into the workforce. They're so eager, they're so excited. And speaking with people either like that or in situations like that is so rewarding to me, because it's nice. You get almost rejuvenated yourself. I had an internship program at the company that I was at that I oversaw, and that was one of my favorite aspects. So things like that. It's really the helping people.
Where can the people find you online?
Yes. So we are all over the place. So on Instagram, the Bike Company is on there. Recruitment has its own page as well. We currently have a giveaway going on. If you do download and create a profile, you get entered to win $100 Amazon gift cards. That's exciting. I'm on Instagram as well. My professional page is Catarina C. Matias. And then I have a website, catarinacmatias.com. And then also Recruitment has its website, recruitme-app.com. The Bike Company is online at thebikecompany.com, and you'll find all of our information online from there. So feel free to reach out to us. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you for listening to People Explained. New episodes come out every Monday. We would appreciate it if you gave us a review on Apple Podcasts and shared this episode with a friend.